What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily podcast powered by Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Huge week for the Canes. Still breaking down and enjoying that big win over Pittsburgh. Back-to-back 10-win seasons. First time in 2 decades. Miami's clearly making huge strides as a program. Next step's the college football playoff. And as we all know, Notre Dame has zero argument to be in over Miami. Zero. Truth is, both of them are better than this glut of SEC teams, which increasingly looks mediocre the more you watch them. So we'll deal with all those playoff machinations. Obviously, sign day on Wednesday, so a lot to be excited about in terms of new Canes. Portals heating up. This is going to be an incredible month for CanesInSight and for the Miami Hurricane programs. Remember to like and subscribe to the show. As always, shout out to Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anijar and Levine. Pete, hop in.
D, good morning.
What's going on? How are you feeling?
One word, man. Just proud. Proud. This is one proud streamer this morning. This is one proud streamer all afternoon. This is one proud streamer really looking into this off season now. That's all I could say, man. Proud.
Hold on, wait. Not off season yet. Season's not over. So, but the off season is going to be. We got sign day on Wednesday, so definitely some off season.
The odds right now are plus 1,800 for Miami to make the playoff. I'm not gonna give the people hope. If it happens, it happens. If something crazy happens, I mean, look, this team did everything they could. They played their tails off, but I can't sit here and be talking about scenarios when nothing really broke in Miami's favor this weekend. It's hard for me to really imagine a world where Miami gets in. Honestly, we can cross our fingers, we can cheer, but that's all I can do.
Well, what broke in Miami's favor was Miami completely dominating its matchup, and
they made their own luck there. I'm talking about the stuff outside of what you can control.
That should have happened. But now ultimately what you're faced with as a committee is you're looking at Miami, Notre Dame, and you're saying, okay, well, we used to have an analytics argument, but now the analytics are all touching each other. Eye test argument is very difficult to make with Miami winning all of the last 4 games by 25 points. Nick Saban saying we're the most dangerous team in the country. And then, of course, head-to-head, we know how that turned out. Miami led the whole game. Common opponent, which is a new kind of wrinkle to it. They played Stanford, and they actually beat Stanford by less than Miami beat Stanford, which means 3 out of the 4 common opponents going in Miami's favor, the fourth being a Syracuse team, which was led by kind of a joke of a coach and a lacrosse player, a quarterback. So Miami beat them by 4 touchdowns as well. So what you see now is the resumes are complete, and now the committee has to face it. 1,800, I'd throw my money down. Throw $100 on that because, again, no one really knows what the committee's going to do. No one's in that room. They are politicians. Politicians react to the wind in the air, and I think the wind's going to start blowing towards Miami because of the performance they did, the exclamation point, which a lot of people, including Canes fans and part of me, didn't expect them to do. You're worried, all right, are we going to look good? Are we going to win? What are we going to do? And they actually play their best game. So, look, I know we and you don't see that eye to eye. I'm not saying we're going to get in.
Listen, but D,
I'm not. I'll put 100 on that all day.
I'm not, and the Hammer's saying it's plus 600, so that must have changed from Saturday night then. If that's the case, I need Canes Cats Heat 305 to give me a number because he's normally on top of that stuff. I'm not disagreeing, and this has been my point the whole time. I think people have kind of gotten my words misconstrued. I don't disagree with anything you're saying about Miami deserving to be in this playoff, but the way that the rankings have been laid out here, there's been a precedent set by the College Football Playoff Committee that I have a hard time believing in 1 week they would say something changed from what it was. I know they're going to be now looking at the body of work. That's a way different argument. I think that's probably the biggest thing that comes into Miami's favor here. But if I'm going to go off of what they've shown us, I can just be happy about how we played this season out. I think that Canes fans need to expect it to not happen, and if it happens, be excited about it. But if it doesn't happen, what can we be surprised about? Because they've shown us the playoff committee have shown us what they have thought about us to this point and how they view other teams, right? So it shouldn't. If it doesn't happen, there should be no surprise. You can be upset. You could say that it's not fair. You could say the system's broken. All of those things, I'm agreeing with you, and I'm agreeing that this team should be in. It's not in our control. And we are trying to talk about logical things with a group of people that we know to not be very logical in making these decisions. So that's where my whole head's been at this whole place. For me, I think people know what I feel about how this season ended and how these 2 seasons in a row have laid the groundwork now for what I think will be an exciting offseason. And how do you take the next step now? You've established what you are. How do you take the next step? I think is going to be the important message here. In like I said, in the off season here, you may not want to talk about it, but I will because we both know that they've.
We talk off season all year. We talk off season right before in pregame shows. So no, we're talking off season. I don't want to totally leave out the fact that there's a decision to be made. There are politicians that are, again, these guys are not principled people. Precedent. There's no precedent. They make it up as they go. So I think the pressure needs to stay on. And one thing I think Bear Felica, who's got obviously a national platform, does a phenomenal job.
I saw Keith Carter win at our boy this morning, man. The Ole Miss AD.
Who? Oh, Keith Carter. He's got his own problems to worry about.
Well, listen, I'd like to be in Keith Carter's situation, 11-1 in the playoff.
You just lost your coach and got spit on the way out, and your program sucks.
But you said you don't like Lane anyways. So what does it matter? I'd like to be in the shoes, man.
Do you think he's feeling? How do you think the AD of Ole Miss feels this morning?
I think he feels
not happy at the plan. I'll tell you that.
I think that he feels great there in the playoff. Of course, he's disappointed, but I feel pretty good about where the trajectory of that program is right now.
Yeah, he got a good reminder of where their program stands. But I wanted to focus on Alabama. I mean, Ole Miss sucks, but Ole Miss has one loss, so you have to respect them. Even though I'd bet my life against them in the playoffs, and I bet my life against them if Miami played them. But you have to respect they only have one loss. The team I'm looking at that really has no case here is Alabama. When you look at Alabama, they've been playing dog crap football for a month and a half. Look at October 25th, 29-22 to a South Carolina team that stinks right now and that lost to Clemson, which also stinks. 20-9 against LSU. Again, another bad team. Oklahoma beat them. Oklahoma can't score. Their offense is one of the worst in the country. Eastern Illinois, disregard that. Auburn, team with the fired coach, barely won that game. So really, we got to talk about Alabama as why are we assuming that this team should get in with 2 losses? The SEC getting 5 teams in when there's not a single SEC team that I would put in the top 5. And if you look at various power rankings that gamblers rely on, and this is the point that Bear Felica made, none of these teams were in the top 5 of the power rankings because they're not that good. This is not 2020. So to me, I think it can go 2 ways. You can either say Miami, Notre Dame, that's an easy one. Head-to-head, common opponents, same record, better win. You go down the line. Miami has every argument over Notre Dame. But 5 SEC teams when the conference is the worst it's ever been in terms of elite teams, that to me is just pure corruption by the process. And I would bet
in terms of elite teams, I'd agree, D. But we talked about this earlier in the year, and I don't have to find the clip, but we both agreed that although there weren't great teams, the SEC has some good, like Vanderbilt. We both think Miami's better than Vanderbilt, but you can't say Vanderbilt's a bad team. Vanderbilt's a darn good team, right? So I think that we are kind of mischaracterizing the SEC a little bit in terms of, it's not, you don't have two teams a year that are just better than everybody. But let's not say the SEC is not a good conference.
They're the best.
Five teams, a lot.
5 is too much.
A lot.
Yeah,
but you knew what was going to happen, and I said this with you and Mike last week, and you guys said no. Or a couple weeks ago, you said no. And I'm not trying to say I told you so, but this is what system are we living in? We are living in an SEC, ESPN, Big Ten controlled system. Guys, I think Miami should be in, but we're trying to argue against this very, very multi-billion-dollar industry right now that's going to favor the SEC. D. So I just have a hard time seeing it not turn out to be 5 teams right now.
All we could do is expose, and then others will carry on the torch, and it's going to be a wave because, SEC is not good enough for 5 teams to get in. I agree they're the best conference, but I'd also agree that if you're ranking the best teams in the country, and again, Bear Felica posted the power. I'll figure out what he posted here. I'll find it right now. These are internal. I guess they're not internal anymore because he posted them. These are power rankings that the gamblers, which, Bear obviously with his Bear Bets podcast that's the world he comes from on top of working in the media. He is tied into these power rankings, which for those who don't know, these are just like basically like, it doesn't look at resume. It's more just like how good are these teams? So when you make your spreads and make your bets, you know kind of how to value them. Here's the power rankings he posted. Let's see. Got Ohio State number 1, Notre Dame number 2, Indiana 3, Oregon 4, Texas Tech 5, which I think is high, Miami 6. The 7th and the highest ranking SEC team, Alabama, which has 2 losses and quite frankly has not played good football in a month and a half. And I find them to be a particularly soft team. They don't run on 4th down. They can't stop the run. I would pray to have that first round matchup if Miami were to make the playoff. So again, SEC is still the deepest conference. I mean, you see, then right after that, there's some SEC teams. But in terms of what it used to be, it's not. So 5 teams, to me, we assume they have 5 teams SEC. They didn't win it last year. They didn't win it the year before that. And they're definitely not favored to win it this year. So that'd be 3 years in a row. This is not the 2020. This is not the 2010s. It's a new era when it comes to the SEC. And I think people need to start waking up to that.
All of that can be true, but at the same time, you know what did not do Miami any favors this year? The ACC being really bad. The ACC is really bad this year.
Sucks.
ACC is really, really bad. So, like, yes, what we're saying about SEC can be true, but brother, the ACC is an abysmal conference. It's a terrible, terrible conference. So that can't be doing Miami any favors either here.
No, it's killing us. The ACC is a joke. The commissioner, I don't even know what he looks like. He should be on TV every day. He had these terrible tiebreaker rules. The obvious tiebreaker rule, if you're using any kind of part of your brain, is you say, okay, head-to-head number 1, which of course would be the tiebreaker for Miami Notre Dame. But assuming there is no head-to-head, because these conferences have gotten so massive and no one thought to make rational tiebreaker rules where these teams don't play each other and don't play a lot of the top teams, you say, okay, head-to-head doesn't work, or maybe there's 3 teams in the mix and one beat one, the other one beat the other. Well, let's just go to CFP ranking. Done. But they got this convoluted system involving, I don't know what kind of algorithm, that Duke, which is not even a G5 caliber team, which lost to 2 G5 teams, is in the championship against Virginia, which, by the way, Virginia lost to NC State, but it didn't count because it was out of conference. The whole thing is a joke, and the ACC looks pathetic just from an administrative standpoint. We've seen the refereeing cost Miami the SMU game. Now we see how incompetent the whole operation is. And I'll admit I was wrong. I thought, hey, listen, ACC is an easy path to the playoffs. But ultimately, when your margin of error is 0 because no one respects the conference, and then the conference acts like amateur hour any chance they get, only good thing I can say about the ACC is I like the ACC network. Everything else is complete amateur hour. This is what we get. So, yes, the ACC sucks. Obviously, Miami has, quite frankly, had an easier time with the SEC than with the ACC. Florida was easy work the last 2 years. Texas A&M, a pretty convincing victory that 3 years ago. So SEC is not a problem for Miami, but the ACC is a problem in many different ways.
Yeah. We'll see how that all shakes out. I think we've obviously expected Miami to leave this conference, but there's still a lot of stuff to get through for that, and it's not going to happen like next year. So.
No, yeah. Look, and honestly, the easiest thing is you instead of those narrow last possession losses to SMU and to Louisville, you win those games. That's obviously the easiest way. But it's like, why even play in Notre Dame if week 1 is disregarded? And I think that's another thing where I think people need to think about the committee's decision here when the rubber meets the road and the resumes are done, is if the committee goes and says, all right, Notre Dame over Miami, and we're not going to penalize Alabama for getting blown out by a bottom-feeding ACC team. While we're talking about ACC and SEC, Alabama got blown out by a bottom-feeding ACC team, a pathetic Florida State team that's one of the worst in the country. I guess that doesn't count as a bad loss, but losing, by 1 score to SMU or Louisville does, 8 wins. But if you just stack Miami against Notre Dame, why would Miami play that game? Why would any team have these big money week 1 games that make a lot of money for a lot of people in suits if they don't mean anything? There's no incentive. So I think that's something that teams need to think about, or the committee needs to think about, is I don't think they're thinking about the sports. I mean, as we learn from college football, the people in charge can't think outside of the next 10 seconds and make mistakes all the time. We all know that. They kind of fix the mistakes after or try to. They never actually get ahead of them, which is why the NIL situation is what it is, because these guys in charge were too stupid. But if they put Notre Dame over Miami, you're basically telling every AD in the country, do not schedule big money, big TV, highly profitable games in week 1 because it can only hurt you. It can't help you. If they want to do that, they can do that. But again, it would be incredibly stupid. Forget about who's right and who's wrong. Just from a college football perspective, would set a horrible precedent and would be one of the dumbest decisions that could happen from, a sport that's known for very dumb decisions. Going back to the BCS, which we now remember as a complete joke, and everyone associated with it has the scarlet letter as a joke. Are you going to repeat the same mistake 25 years later? We'll see. We'll know later, though.
And Notre Dame fans are saying the same exact things on their podcast, that it would be a blow to the sport if Miami got in over them. They're
Notre Dame fans. You know what? I have a word for Notre Dame fans. They are quality losers. They are probably the highest quality losers that I've ever encountered. They are incredibly high caliber losers. The best losers around. You cannot have more quality losers than Notre Dame fans, Notre Dame bloggers, and then obviously the team. So the best quality losers in the country are Notre Dame. No questions asked. Of course, unless they lose to Northern Illinois or Marshall or some of these other teams. But quality losers, Notre Dame. Anyways,
Kyle's jumping on it.
Let's talk about the good stuff, Pete. Now that we're back on the same page. I had to make my point. I know everybody knows where you stand on that, and I know we both feel Miami should be in, so we're on the same page.
It's not that I don't. Yeah, we're on the same page there. It's just like I have a hard time getting frustrated when I understand what the lay of the land is.
No, listen. I'm happy as a clam at the end of the day because we got a lot to talk about here. We have a lot of momentum, Pete, and let's get back to the clam mode here because you've been saying it, and truthfully I've agreed with you the whole time. I just was nervous about us doing it, but now that it's done, when you go back and I'll let you kind of expand on this. You hit this all in your post game pod. Back-to-back 10-win seasons after 20 plus years of being unable to do so, and quite frankly, looking bad in the process. To have 2 back-to-back 10-win seasons when the 4 losses were or the 3, I guess in this case, the 5 losses with the Bowl were last possession losses. I mean, the progress is beyond obvious, right, Pete?
Yeah, and look, my main kind of takeaway from how this thing finished out this year, and really just stepping back and looking at the last 2 seasons as a whole, D, and this is what I said on the podcast. In terms of recruiting, we talk recruiting more than anyone on this show, and we talk, there's been some misses that have been had, and you try to figure out what went wrong there, and why didn't they come to Miami, and what could have you have done differently. And I really go back to this, and I said this is exactly what I said on the podcast the other day, the post-game show. If you have to show a recruit, or if a recruit has to watch the documentary to know what this program is supposed to look like, it hasn't looked like that in 25 years. But if you have to show them that, then you better create something new. You better create some new history. I titled this episode "Mountaintop Reached." People may say that's clickbait. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. There's a lot of different mountaintops out there. You got Kilimanjaro. You got the tropical Park Hill. This one's somewhere in the middle. But for someone who has been following this team, as like I said the other day, I'm 31 years old now. I got a glimpse of what it was supposed to look like as a young kid. I remember it, but obviously it's different when you're a full-fledged adult. If you've been following this team for 20 years, 25 years, growing up and you're my age and that same age range, this is the mountaintop. We don't know anything else. So again, some people, if you saw what it's supposed to look like, you may say this isn't the mountaintop. It might be the tropical Park Hill for you. Guess what? Climbing up that if you want to run up that tropical Park Hill, it's not going to be easy. If you haven't done it anytime soon, if you've never done it, it's not easy. Kilimanjaro is not easy either. But how do you train your way up to the top there? You don't go from not making that step to, hey, I'm gonna go Kilimanjaro. Let's go get tropical Park Hill. Let's go get Stone Mountain. I don't know the altitude levels exactly, but I know it's bigger than tropical Park Hill, and it's not Kilimanjaro. So Pace Guy 28, 32 years old, says that we've never felt this, where you feel very secure in where the program's at. do we really think that right now this team's going to take a step back and be an 8-win team next year? A lot of things to happen now in the offseason. We have no clue who the quarterback is going to be. We have to replace Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, Francis Mauanoa, potentially Markel Bell. He's got a big decision to make. You've got a lot to replace. But if you don't think that this coaching staff has some serious ammo going forward, because remember, those first 2 years, you're recruiting off hope. The next 2 years, you better show me something if you're a recruit, or if you're these people who are advising these recruits to make decisions, because that's a very big part of this process now as well. So they've shown, hey, we're not trash. We're not Florida State. We're not Florida, which, again, I said this on the show the other day. Do you want to switch places with either one of them? No, you don't. You've established what you are. I think this is, to say it's the floor. Look, I'm not going to say that there's never going to be a season less than 10 wins here. I can't look that far into the future, but I feel very, very strongly about where this program's at right now. Again, how do you take the next step? That's areas of debate for us this offseason. That will be fun. I personally think you need to continue to recruit at an elite level at certain spots, add more pieces to the mix in certain spots, and stay strong in the spots you've been strong at. But mountaintop for me, man. I gotta figure out which mountain, because it's not tropical, but it's somewhere in between.
Yeah, I love it. You talk about the kids and people, younger people, right? Not knowing what Miami looks like when Miami's good. I looked at Malachi Tony's birthday on ChatGPT. It says September 17, 2007, based on what I saw here. Look at this. This is around when he was born. So we just lost 51-13 to Oklahoma and Sam Bradford. We ended up going 5-7.
Scroll down. Get the video out of the way. Get the broadcast out of there. Thank you. Yeah. It's on the bottom now. Get out of there.
We're out of there. So yeah, you're talking about a 5-7 season, losing 48-0 to Virginia, losing 51-13 to Oklahoma. Just go down the line, all the disgraces. Lose 16-19 to North Carolina State. I'm going to pull up the box score of that game. This is a game known to Canes fans as Chernobyl, because Kirby Freeman was, I believe, 1 of 13 in this ball game, 1 of 14 for 84 yards. So that's where Mally was born, and didn't get a lot better after that. So that's an example of just how important it is in these short memory, this short attention span era. You have to be relevant again. And I think if you're a kid now, you're buying the Malachi Tony jersey. You're pretending you're Cam Ward in the backyard or whoever. So I think the impact of what you're doing now is going to be felt down the line. And now it's about maintaining it. So it's not even a question that it was some sort of flash in the pan, that this is something that you could expect every single year.
Yeah. And look, there's changing of the guard up in Gainesville. Florida State will have a new coach after this next season. So, they're going to be somewhere. There's always an early recruiting bump with a new coach, right? So I would expect them to recruit pretty well this year. That there's going to be some change, man. And like you said, how can they continue to adapt, and how can they continue to add to what they've built? But yeah, man, I'm very excited for the future of this program.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Obviously, sign day on Wednesday, so we're doing a big show. We're going to be on. We're still finalizing some of the times, but we're going to be doing a ton of content on sign day like usual. I don't expect the usual kind of ups and downs that you had on signing day in the past. Hopefully, maybe a surprise in a good way, but not a ton of action these days on signing day because of the NIL, the contracts, and just how much work is done ahead of time. These guys are taking visits in the summer, official visits, so the timeline is just totally different. But you're going to get a lot of great Canes coming in the building. And then, of course, get ready for the portal season. And we'll see what happens with the postseason. Either way, we talk about 10 wins. We're at whichever direction it goes. I would love Miami to get to 11 wins, right? That'd be a whole new plateau as well. He thought he'd do it last year, had the whole Pop-Tart with Cam and Emery, and, you end up losing it. But
I gotta say, I said this in the Discord yesterday, and people were getting on me. I wanted to ask your opinion. If Miami makes it to a bowl game, it's not a playoff game. why would you play Malachi Tony in that game? I would not let him touch that field. I do not want, I mean, like, I'm not playing him in that game. I know we want 11 wins, but like, I need him healthy for next year. I have nightmares of what happened to Mark Fletcher against Rutgers. Like, I do not let him play that game. And people might look at me like I'm crazy. I don't let him play.
Yeah, I mean, I think you send a kind of a bad message there. If you don't play him, and I think he'd want to play. Players play. I mean, look at Michael Jordan.
He'll want to play. He'll want to play.
Yeah, and players
like I need him for spring.
You heard Kirby Smart talking about it. It's like if you start worried about injuries, you're going to be a soft team. It's different when it comes from the player side, like the agents, like the opt-outs, because that's coming from player in. It's a little different, I think, when it comes from top out. I would say the one that'd be interesting to me would be a Carson Beck, because to me, if I'm Carson Beck, now Ruben Bain, I don't know, like that kind of guy. Mao and Noah, I don't know how those guys get down. That could be an opt-out situation if you don't go to the playoff. But a Carson Beck, I think more so than Cam, if he plays in that game, gets you to 11 wins, which you could say, Cam didn't do, and Cam, really no one had done going back all the way.
Hey, they're going to start coming at you now, D. They're going to start coming at you now. Man, by the way, Cam is, dude, let me tell you something. They need to get him some help, man. It's really bad over there.
Yeah, Hope Restrepo's all right. He had an ankle situation. I hope he's okay. But yeah, I mean, if you're Carson Beck, if I'm advising Carson Beck, and look, I get the realities of college of the draft and the Ruben Baines, different decisions for those guys. Cam Ward last year. But if you're Beck, where your draft status is still a little unclear and maybe room to move up or move down, I say play the bowl game, be there for
send a good message going out. Yeah.
Send a great message, show you're healthy, which of course he is. Show you're not worried about injury, right? Because you got injured in this time of year last year. So he'd be kind of saying, like, I don't care. I'm here for my team. I think he is. He's a team player. And then, yeah, we have not won 11 games since 2003, which was the Orange Bowl win over FSU. So if you're Beck, that's a feather in your cap for a guy who's already 36-5 as a starter.
Well, and I'll say this, D, just talking to some people inside. There's a little bit of a different dynamic with what's going on here. Normally, your season's done now. These guys can literally, like, they're figuring out which agent they want to sign with this week. They're starting to get their training plans ready. There's a little bit of a difference this year, and this is from talking to a couple people inside. Like I said, the feeling after the game. Normally, when you're going into a game like they were against Pitt last game of the season, hey, this could be the last time with my brothers together. Like, there wasn't that feeling in the locker room. They really approached this like we've got more football to play, right? So they're going to be in limbo this next week plus here, or is it a week or what is it? They do it after Army Navy? When is the actual final selection? Is it 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
so.
it's not this weekend, right? Like we don't find out this weekend, so it's 2 more weeks of them of you got the conference championship game this week, and it's not that direct thing. You have a whole nother week that they do it, right? I'm pretty sure. If I'm mistaken, then someone let me know. It's after conference championship, so they let it go. Okay, well, either way, you still got another week here where again guys are not. Oh, it is this weekend. Okay, so I'm completely wrong there. For some reason I thought they give you a whole nother week, so it's this Sunday. Either way, normally the season would be done. Like they would be making their decisions. I think the idea of, hey, we're still in this thing, we can't really mentally lock out of it, or like we can't drop. They're still in season mode right now. So yeah, it's wait and see, but you can't necessarily mentally drop it because they're ready.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you won, right? And you've been on a hot streak, you've been basically blowing out every team for the last 4 games, is different than, the demoralizing feeling of losing the last game, right? Where you lost it and now it's like, oh, okay, what's next? So I think the whole feeling of the team is different right now. A lot of excitement in the building. I think that translates to recruiting. You had Karsten Bush on campus. We talked about him. I'll find out the latest on him. I'll be dropping a bank here. I like to let the dust settle and then really find out, okay, what's going on? What's the real? So I'll be probably doing that tonight, and we'll drop a bank maybe tonight or tomorrow morning, just to kind of get a feel for the recruits. But Karsten Bush, a linebacker from Louisville, was a Louisville commit, decommitted. Now it looks like Miami and Wisconsin are battling there. Miami loves him. I personally think he's awesome. We broke his film down, running around, hit.
Heard it went well with him. This weekend. So
You got to imagine it did. I mean, you saw Miami's defense dominate. You know, one thing that catches my ear, just comment-wise, he talks a lot about the depth charts. You look at Wisconsin, they had 2 freshman starters at linebacker. Miami, of course, had 2 departing players with Torrey and Wesley Bassane. So I think that's the kind of thing that is going to catch his attention. But overall, recruiting, the message I've gotten always is pretty quiet. You know, they were so focused on going 4-0. They were so focused on the portal, focused on playing defense on our players, which I think is fine. I don't see any issues there, but you're always playing defense on your players. It wasn't the usual action and fireworks that you get around this time of year, but we'll keep you posted on all that. But Pete, yeah, you know, just in terms of the season itself, now that you've at least wrapped up the regular season, you know, what you learn about this team and this program, obviously the wins and the result to get that, but just in terms of like how we play, you know, some of the young players, like what caught your attention from the football side of it, watching this game and this team this season?
Well, I mean, I said it also, the Mario culture has been established. You know, we can talk about his shortcomings. We can talk about game day stuff. We can talk about a number of things, right? But what you can't laugh at, you can't say is a fallacy, is the fact that he's completely turned that locker room around. D. It was in a really horrible spot when he got here. This is not something that happens overnight. Sometimes the talent was horrible too. So when not across the board, but like they were really, really down in certain positions. And I think that you take chances on guys still at that point. You're not picking the perfect character guy or the perfect fit for the locker room because you say we need a guy there. And I think you're really at a point now where you can not only get the right guys mentally, which we saw how it stayed together this year. To me, I harped on that. That was after the Louisville game, and even before the Louisville game, you start to hear things of certain guys aren't happy. It affects practice, right? Guys maybe aren't practicing as hard because they feel like, oh, I'm not getting in the game. And I think there was something that happened in the middle point of the season there where the coaches showed, look, things aren't going well in certain spots. You're going to get an opportunity. If you play up to a certain standard, you're going to stay in there and you're going to be someone who can make an impact down the line here. So culture-wise, to me, night and day from really even the first couple of years, like I said. And look, a lot of that, I think you can give credit to, I think a Cam Ward coming in last year, right? I think changed the mentality of a lot of the guys in the locker room. That carries over. Carson Beck, as I've said the last month or so, even when he was going through those struggles, D, people inside were telling me, hey, this guy's carrying himself extremely well. His attitude is phenomenal. He's leading this group. The young guys got more involved as the season went on. I think that's a testament to the quarterback, just as much as it is to the young guys, right, for doing their work. Because again, the quarterback, if he doesn't have a trust with that receiver, they're not going to play. The receiver, the offensive coordinator is not going to dial up targets for them. The receivers coach not going to have them in the rotation. So there was trust there. I think that, again, a lot of things just culture-wise that I think can carry over here to the next year. And I think we'll see how this offense looks next year, depending on who's at quarterback. But I think they showed a lot of different things that should excite you for next year because a lot of that skill position talent is returning.
No doubt about it. By the way, if you want to return to form, recover your game, talk to the expert at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute, UHealth Sports. I know a lot of you consider yourselves athletes or just active people. You probably know how hard it is to sit on the injured list with pain or injury. Maybe you've even tried to hack your own rehab. But if compromising your movement and performance is not an option, call the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. Whether it's elite competition with Miami Hurricanes athletics or just everyday movement, the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute is the trusted choice for those who demand excellence. Set an appointment today at uhealthsports.com. Pete, so I want to talk about, actually, you know what? Before we get to Carson Beck, I want to talk about a place where you could watch some of these results because you're still watching the conference championships. You're still watching to see, just as a college football fan, and you're still watching to see if anything happens with some of these BYUs, see what happens at Alabama, Georgia. Spend your time at Duffy's Tavern, the home of the Hurricanes, right there on the edge of Coral Gables. 60 plus years serving the Miami community. And actually, they got a nice spiffy new website. Let's see the spiffy new website here for Duffy's Tavern, because again, it is the home of the Hurricanes and Pete's home away from home. All the TVs. We got to see Miami take care of business and beat up the Virginia Tech Hokies. That was a delight. And meeting a lot of Canes fans there. It's a Canes tradition for over 60 plus years. There's the new spiffy website. Look at that. How about that, Pete? We're in the 21st
Charming atmosphere awaits. We got to start using that one. That's a good one.
Savoring the vibrant ambiance. Regulars and newcomers alike appreciate the warm greetings from staff, making it a true hidden gem. Everybody knows Wayne the Pain, Lauda, the whole crew out there. Yeah, man, right here. These the menus, the Death Dog, that was always my thing growing up. That's still a classic. Key lime pie, a lot of classics here, along with the new updated menu at Duffy's Tavern, not Duffy Sports Grill, Duffy's Tavern.
Our boy Kirk says I have a timeshare there.
That's a fact. So let's get on to a topic I want to talk about with you, Pete, as I know you have feelings on it. I think we're pretty much on the same page, and it's Carson Beck. You know, all the ups and downs that he had over the course of the season, and then you look at how it ended. Top 10 in the nation in passer rating. You look at the stats, 165.8 on that passer rating, 3,072 yards, 75% completion percentage. I'll repeat, 75% completion percentage, second in the country.
Is that good?
I think it's pretty good. 8.7 yards per attempt, which is also very good. Just for comparison, it was 7.8 last year at Georgia. So he's averaging almost a full yard more per attempt in Miami. 25 touchdowns, 10 picks. And to me, my favorite Carson Beck stat, besides the fact that, you know, first back-to-back 10-win season in Miami history, really the best Miami season since 2003, all told. The fact that he is 34-5 as a starting quarterback at this level, playing at some big-time programs. So, Pete, I want to throw this statement at you. We'll see what the chat says, but this is what I believe. Carson Beck is the second best quarterback since Dorsey. I'll put Cam Ward number 1, and I think Carson Beck number 2. And I think there's a wide gap, wider than people think.
And I think the gap between 1 and 2 is closer than people think. And I think it's closer than people think.
And look, the good thing is they're both playing the pros, so hopefully we get to watch both of those guys compete and represent the U. But yeah, I think if you look at the 3 to 5, you're talking about De'Aaron King, who was awesome. Probably more limited than Beck in terms of how much of the field you could use, but the legs and the leadership, I think, was outstanding with him. Brad Kaya, probably similar to Beck, just like a less talented version of Beck, didn't play on as good of a team. Not his fault. And then Brock Berlin, the ups and downs, but he did play a game in the NFL and was a very good clutch player. Had the last 11-win season for us with that incredible defense with Vince Wilfork, Sean Taylor, and those. So that'd be kind of my 5.
And here's the other thing, too, D. Here's the other thing, D. That run game really didn't get going until the last 4 games of the season, 5 games of the season. I mean, we saw glimpses of it in the first couple games. Obviously, they wore a couple teams down there. But I'm talking about a run game that could be complementary to the pass game.
Yeah. The run game took a step back. That could have helped him. He did have, obviously, we can't sugarcoat that he had the bad game against Louisville, which, look, he made terrible decisions. Louisville made some incredible plays. But you look at Jackson Dart last year, who was the belle of the ball when he was playing for the New York Giants in the pros this year. He threw away their playoff chances against Florida, Ole Miss. That's why Ole Miss didn't make the playoff last year, where they really had the best roster besides Ohio State and a coach everybody's fighting over. Jackson Dart threw away the game against Florida. Not to discard Dart. I'm just saying bad games happen at quarterback. I think one of the reasons why Cam Ward is so special is he really didn't have a terrible game like that. He had games you wish he, did a little more, I guess, but really the defense, I think, let him down, but I think just with Beck, people need to put in perspective. We've not had, besides put Ward to the side, who was the first overall pick, we haven't had a guy get drafted higher than the 5th round since Steve Walsh in the supplemental draft before you were born, Pete. So if Beck goes, let's say day 2, maybe high day 3, he's going to be our highest drafted quarterback again, putting Ward to the side since Steve Walsh. Just to give you an idea of where Miami's been at quarterback at the talent level that it takes to be drafted high.
Yeah, he'll be a top 3-4 round pick. D, I really believe that, and I think he'll go through this process pretty well. I think Miami will do a lot in terms of helping him kind of rehab the image, so to speak. And then you can look back on the time at Georgia and he can still say, look, this was my record at Georgia. You know, they can say what they want about me there because there will be some negative talk about him from Georgia. That's how this stuff goes. The Washington State people could not stand Cam Ward. Like the word out of Washington State was not good when the scouts went in there and asked, because you're not happy the guy leaves. Same sort of thing is going to happen with Carson Beck there. But I think you kind of look at what happened for him at Miami this year, and he stabilized who he was as a quarterback too, I think, and got more comfortable, not only with the offense, but with his arm, with the weapons around him. So I think all of this is a very good message too, because look, your situation in the NFL is always changing. As a quarterback, you need to be able to stay above everything that's going on in terms of the injuries, trades, free agency losses. And I think he showed this year that he can deal with that quick change over the course of a season. So
yeah, I agree with you. I think the comparison of Ward to Washington State and Beck and Georgia, I think it's right that you're not going to always get good reports from those other schools. I would say ask people at Arizona State about Jaden Daniels and see what you get there. And of course, the guy was rookie of the year and everything else. So that's kind of the way it goes. I could tell you, Miami loves Cam Ward. Miami really loved Carson Beck, and his teammates love him too. So I think that's a good thing for him. Eternal Rival asking, can you guys compare Quinn Ewers and Beck, and how is Beck better than him? So I don't have a lot of NFL contacts like Pete. I do have a friend that is high ranking in a very good personnel department, one of the best, if not the best in the sport. And
Dolphins.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I asked him about Ewers and Beck, and because I'm like, could Beck drop like Ewers? This was after the SMU game, so this was before this run of great play to finish the year. And asked, could Beck go drop like Ewers did, where he's like a 7th round pick or whatever Ewers ended up being? And he said no. He goes, Beck's in a different tier than Ewers, just from a talent standpoint, ability standpoint. So that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. There's just one person's opinion. But I asked that exact question before this great run of play, and that was the answer I got. And I tend to agree. I just think Beck, Ewers, for some reason, his throwing ability really fell off after his injuries. I don't know if his shoulder got hurt or just got gun shy. He used to seem a lot more talented, whereas it kind of became more of a dink and dunk passer as he got older. Whereas I think Beck, just a little more talent than Ewers.
Man, Beck, he had a throw early in that game too. I think it was the one to Malachi that Malachi had the one hand. I mean, even though it was a phenomenal catch, like the throw itself was still great. Like he layered that throw, and I think, man, some of the throws that he layered to the second and third levels of the defense to me were very impressive this year. Like he can make a lot. He can make. Sometimes we take for granted. Yes, you want a quarterback to obviously take care of the football and not make mistakes, which he had the Louisville game that really everyone keeps an eye on. Then had a couple other moments that weren't great, but you can't take away the fact that he could make some throws that a lot of quarterbacks just aren't capable of making at this level. Like it opened up a lot of stuff downfield that I think people just take for granted.
No doubt. By the way, 2,200 on. Like and subscribe. Yeah, I mean, look, again, De'Aaron King, who I thought, to me, he'd probably be the third on my list, quite frankly, of the quarterbacks we've had, at least when he was healthy. But even with him, you didn't have the whole middle of the field open. It was more downfield or horizontal. Whereas with Beck and Ward last year, you had the whole field available to pass to. So yeah, I think he's very good player. What do you think on the draft, Pete? Because he still hopefully has a playoff run ahead of him. If not, hopefully finishes and plays his bowl. And then I think he's going to be probably a pretty good lock to be a Senior Bowl guy, which is going to be big for him. But where do you think he might land?
I still think third. I think he could go. I'm not counting first round out of the equation with him. I'm not at all.
Like a Jackson Dart situation.
Yeah, because I mean, first of all, I really think he's going to do well as someone said in the comments, in the whiteboard stuff. He's going to interview well. GMs will like him. Senior Bowl week can make a lot of difference with a lot of different things. If he goes out there and is steady all week, the scouts are going to want to, see what the arm looks like live after a full season of throwing. That'll be a big thing for them, because if they see, obviously you see one thing on tape, but then you now, after a full year, it maybe is a bit sore, bit tired. I don't know, but they're gonna be looking at that stuff up close. If he passes those tests, again, has to be you got to go through the whole process clean, right? You got to, when he goes to the combine, he has to do everything that they ask of him. He has to have a good throwing day out there. But I think when he lines up, sometimes that eye test makes a difference at the combine too. He's a big boy. He's got a presence about him. And quite frankly, this is not a good, the lack of mobility will hurt him here, but this is not a good quarterback class whatsoever, D.
Awful. Yeah. Like, so people say, okay, well, Beck, yeah, that you're talking about it too high. Well, just look at the guys he's competing with. By the way, Rock the Five, when I say top five, I'm about recent history, post Dorsey, when I say all those names, obviously you go back Dorsey, Kozar, Testaverde. I'm talking about when I say those 5 names of Ward, Beck, King, Berlin, Kai, I'm talking about post Dorsey era. So just to clarify that. But yeah, Pete, I think you're right. The Senior Bowl, when he's stacked up with these other guys, is going to be interesting. You see Kevin Dennis saying, and I like these comps, it goes on the low end, Davis Mills, on the high end, like Eli Davis Manning. Mills, yeah. And Eli Manning, it sounds crazy when you say it like that, but Daniel Jeremiah, who does all the draft stuff for NFL Network, former scout. I mean, this guy knows every single executive in the league. He's a real football guy, and he's extra plugged in now that he's in media and he talks to everybody. So he's not like just some random dude on Twitter saying it. He actually comped Beck to Eli Manning before last year's Georgia season, right? So coming off his first Georgia year, when he wrote him up before the 2024 season, he had him as an Eli Manning comp. Obviously, a lot's happened since then, but I think, yeah, you look at Davis Mills. Where did Davis Mills?
Davis Mills was third round, and by the way, was the number 1 quarterback in the country come out of high school, 5-star, had like 3 ACL tears, and that's why his career was derailed a little bit.
And like 7 touchdowns. Look at his stats. Look at Davis Mills, because you're right, he was a high recruit.
He went 3-0 for my Texans in the last month. He kept their season afloat, and then they Stroud came back this week, and they beat the Colts. So.
And if you look at he was in the COVID year, so take that with a grain of salt. But if you just look at his whole college career total, 18 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. That's his total college career. So the point being that pedigree, the tools, that makes a big difference when you're evaluating the player. And Pete, like, it's also like, if you look at the other guys, like, who are let's say Lenore Sellers goes back.
Mendoza's the guy. Mendoza's the guy. We get it.
I think Mendoza goes to New York Jets. That just makes too much sense. They have good tackles. They have what he needs, and the market's going to be a little tough for him. So you got that Kirk Cousins thing, but I could see him fitting in there. Let's say Mendoza goes number 1 to the Jets or whatever it is. Now you move off that. Sellers might come back. Sorsby might come back. Who is he stacked against? Nussmeier or Beck? You go Beck.
Sorsby has an interesting decision to make. If I'm him, I go, just because of what the class is and what I think his upside is. But it's a weak QB class, man.
Yeah, and Sorsby, who I like, he's had issues. It's not like Sorsby's been, smooth sailing to finish the year. So, it's not like he's on a huge high.
Ty Simpson, if he goes, as Kevin Dennis points out. But will he go? Ty Simpson strikes me as a guy who's going to come back another year.
It would be insane for him to go a pro unless he's just really short-sighted.
Well, you don't think he'd be a first-round pick, though, right now?
He might, but what happens to quarterbacks with no starts? They struggle. If you look at Simpson, he doesn't have any starts. He's not physically good. So I think he's a good player, but he's not like physically good, right? He's best case scenario Brock Purdy physically. And Brock Purdy had 1 million starts in college where Simpson has none. And then you look at his last 5 games. Like I mentioned, Alabama's not been playing well. I mean, Ty Simpson has not really been playing very well the last 5 games.
Well, I'll say this.
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit more athletically gifted than you're saying. But to me, you can also look at what Nussmeier just did. Nussmeier comes back to school. If he leaves last year, he's a first-round pick. I know that's just the flip side of the coin. you know, but you're right. He hasn't been playing, lights out football. But if they go on a run here, who knows?
Yeah, I think the starts is a big one. That to me is just huge. And Simpson doesn't have those. So I think he should come back. But let's say he goes. I mean, he'd be in the mix there. But again, if Ty Simpson is throwing next, and I think Ty Simpson is a really good player. I do. I think Simpson, college-wise, is a stud, and he has a chance to be a Purdy in the pros. If you put Ty Simpson next to Carson Beck, he's not really looking better. Like, in terms of, like, if you're just looking at him, I think they both, like, in the Senior Bowl setting, it's not like you're going to be looking at Ty Simpson being like, whoa, you're going to kind of be like, all right, well, good player. But it's not like he's a physically impressive guy. And then who else is there? Sellers goes back. Let's say Sorsby goes back, or even if he leaves, I think Beck could stack up. Like, there's only, like, guys are going to pick a quarterback that they think could start, even if it's like a swing starter. Like, so someone's going to pick him. And who am I missing? Who's in this quarterback?
Davis Mills was a really good comparison. I like that one a lot because he's come in and he's had to be the full-time starter that year that Watson was suspended. He was the guy, and you saw what his limitations were, but he comes in a pinch and wins you 3 games, and he's making some money as I want to say one of the highest paid backup quarterbacks in the league right now.
Yeah, it's amazing. So Pete, I'm just going to roll down the names. I mean, look at it. It's crazy when you really break
Dante
down.
Moore, could he leave? I mean, he probably needs more football, but if he leaves, he's probably a top 10 pick, right?
But he's a top 10 pick next year, I think. I mean, look, you never know. But again, Peyton Manning went back, right? And he was already the number 1 pick. So, like, there's a reason why people, Justin Herbert, there's a reason why people go back and get more starts. But like, just going down the list, this is a random list. Disregard the order, but just in terms of the names, if Mendoza goes number 1, you're talking about Simpson and Moore, who might not go. Sellers, who all the reports are he needs another year. Mateer, I can't imagine him going pro. Nussmeier, terrible year. Levitt, we already know he wants to go back in the portal. Drew Aller, I think Beck's ahead of Drew Aller easily. Cade Klubnik, again, I think Beck's ahead of him easily. Taylon Green, someone's going to be intrigued by the toolsy, high character passer out of Arkansas, but he's had very inconsistent play. He doesn't fit everybody. Jaden Mayava, I think he might go back to USC. He's got another year of eligibility. Also some question marks there. Sorsby, we talked about. Sawyer Robertson, toolsy guy, but doesn't win a lot of games and kind of plays a goofy system that hasn't translated. Am I missing anybody? Diego Pavia, he's not a pro. Avery Johnson is not really a pro.
Well, as I forget who said it. I think it was Andre Ware. He said there'll be. I don't want to say it was Andre Ware if it wasn't. So I'll take that back. But someone said they're going to be him and Tommy Castellanos are going to be phenomenal CFL quarterbacks. So right. They are pros.
And good players. I mean, I'm not trying to diminish them as players. I mean, Pavia, if we play him in a bowl game, I'll be sweating bullets. I hope he goes pro.
Right. I'll take a Diego Pavia regen right now.
Yeah.
If I could have it.
100%. He's a stud. But NFL. So really, when you break it down, if Simpson and Moore come back to college, which I think is very possible, is he the second best quarterback in the draft?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The first round is very well within reach here. I don't think it's a crazy conversation to be had. And watch how the narrative changes in the spring. Now, watch how the stories of him, how good he was at Miami in terms of behind the scenes, the same stuff that I've been talking about and you have as well. That stuff you'll start to get the articles that come out about it, and then you'll get quotes from Mario and Shannon Dawson about how phenomenal he was coming in here and putting Georgia behind him. Like, that's what will start to happen. It will be that narrative. And listen, the media stuff doesn't always reflect what the NFL thinks. I'll say that, but I think it all plays into the equation, and I think it will help him.
Yeah, I agree, man. It'll be a fun one to watch. Do you know who his agent is?
Carson? No, I don't actually.
Yeah, that will be an interesting one to see. And again, I think if he comes back, obviously if he gets in the playoff, that's going to be the best film of all for people to watch. But if he plays in the bowl, and let's say he has a great game in the bowl and everybody's smiling and hugging and the vibes are high, that matters. I mean, it sounds stupid because it shouldn't, but like, I think, and you're more of these conversations than I do, but I've seen it from the outside. When there's momentum behind a player, especially a player where there's been question marks, and then you're seeing him play, win, celebrate with his teammates. When you ask, there's going to be a lot of Canes at the combine. And when you ask a Ruben Bain or Keontae Scott, hey, what do you think about Beck? Oh, that's my boy. I think the momentum is positive with him. And you know what? Could he be the Jackson Dart? Now that we lay it out, there were better quarterbacks last year. Everybody said it was a one quarterback draft with Ward, and in some ways it was. But Pete,
well, and then let's say one of Moore and let's say one of Moore and Simpson go, and one of them get picked ahead of Ward. You're still in the discussion there for third to fifth best quarterback. If you don't think 5 quarterbacks will be taken in the first 3 rounds here, and we've seen a bit of a strategy shift where, like, some teams are saying, if we're not going to take it in the first round, we're not going to take one until late. So maybe that comes into play here. But I saw Dylan Gabriel get picked in the 3rd round last year.
Yeah, last year there were 5 quarterbacks on the first 2 days. And really, Shedeur should have been, if not for like some weird interview stuff, right? Or whatever you want to say happened with Shedeur. It was not based on his ability.
Next week will be very interesting.
But, he's starting games.
You know what next week is, right?
Shedeur Cam.
Yeah. Next week will be very interesting. A lot of narratives at play there.
So, yes, I mean, again, you look at it, you say, all right, Cam Ward, 1st round, Jackson Dart's 1st round, Tyler Shuck, 2nd round, which, by the way, we said it during Louisville week. Don't sleep on Tyler Shuck. Jalen Milroe, 3rd round, who he had a lot of issues throwing the football. Dylan Gabriel, I don't even know why he was a 3rd round pick. Great college player, but I didn't see any pro projection there, but went to the Senior Bowl, did fine, I guess. 3rd round pick. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With Shedeur's probably should have been 6. I can't even tell you 6 quarterbacks in this draft. So, I think you're right, man. I think it could be interesting. Could be interesting, man. And how about that for promotion for the Canes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, 2 years in a row would be, with a 1st round QB would be fantastic.
All right. I got a comment I want to get to from Steve Smith first. Want to talk about an opportunity to give your free time a raise. What does that mean? You download the KashKick app, KashKick, and while you're playing the games on your phone, browsing, doing surveys, instead of just wasting time, whether waiting for the doctor, waiting to pick up your kids at sports, whatever it is, you're making money on the side. You're paying for a meal. You're paying for a shirt that you wanted to buy just by playing a game. That's it. KashKick app. Give your free time a raise. One of the most popular apps in the country. 4.5 plus average rating. 1.5 million plus downloads. It goes right to your PayPal. A million different ways to connect. All legit. This is a big time app. KashKick. And while you're playing these games, doing surveys, whatever, you're making money on the side. Just an unbelievable product, unbelievable opportunity. Sounds too good to be true, but it is 100% legit. Again, millions with this app and got money in their account. This is a big-time company. There's no secrets here. Then you go to KashKick.com if you want to learn more about it. Just download the app, KashKick, for the KashKick app. All right, so Pete, a comment here from Steve Smith. He said, Beck season's over with. Let's focus on the future right now. So I think this is our annual more like daily. This is our daily.
Steve Smith, I will say Steve Smith had another comment here that was, I think, should lead us right into what we were talking about here, D, which is, I think, a great point.
Let's see.
As he says, Steve Smith says, I'm pitching Tony to all portal quarterbacks if they want to come play for UM. Like, be serious if you want those big numbers. So, yeah, I think we talked so much about the last couple of years how not having a quarterback in place hurt the search for a receiver. I think it's going to. And this is what we keep saying that. And I don't know. You may have heard something differently. I know you're going to hopefully be having a new addition of the bank here before signing day. But everything I know is that Miami wants to act quickly on a quarterback situation here. And having a guy like Malachi Tony in place with the idea that, hey, we'll probably try to go get someone else and add to what we have here. It's got to be a pretty nice proposition for a quarterback who's looking at his options.
No doubt about it. And then, of course, I mean, we saw Cam Ward with all his time. And I heard people say, and I never agreed with it. You never agreed with it, Pete, but there were people that said, Cam Ward had a lot of time because Cam Ward could, make the offensive line right, break a tackle, use his legs. But the reality is that Carson Beck got sacked even less than Cam Ward by a lot, actually. Not, again, There's a reason why Cam Ward held the ball. He was making huge plays. He was the best player in the country. I'm not saying this as a negative to Cam Ward. I'm saying it as a positive to the offensive line, which is you could put a non-mobile quarterback behind this offensive line, and he's not going to get touched. He only got sacked on 2.82% of his dropbacks. That's top 5 number nationally, and he had all day to throw. So I think from the offensive line protection standpoint, that's easy. Like, that's an easy sell. And now, to your point, Pete, instead of saying, all right, well, we lost our 4 top receivers, but we're going to replace them with somebody in the portal, which, by the way, it's hard to get the portal guy without the quarterback. Now it's say he's here. He's already here, so you don't have to get one. So I think that's a great point by Steve.
Cranky Grinch says, CanesInSight, the ultimate tampering platform. No doubt about it, man. We're here to tamper openly and proudly, my friend.
It's a lot of time till this tamper deadline ends. So I just told you a stat that Miami was elite in pass blocking. South Carolina, 134th in sacks allowed, 11.29%. How much of that's the quarterback? Lenore Sellers to me is an interesting one because I was a huge fan of him coming out of last year. I thought watching him against Clemson was one of the best performances I saw all year. He kind of big boyed him. The character was great. The arm strength, the lead, the size and strength, as good as I've seen since Josh Allen from a quarterback. And then he could run too. But again, the character and just the tools, you like the whole package. But now flash forward, gets blown out. I'll say blown out, but gets beaten soundly by Clemson, a worse Clemson team, 28-14. So same game that he kind of showed everybody how good he was. He takes a step back. On the year, 2,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, 8 picks. Ran the ball okay, but really not as well as he should have. 270 rushing yards after rushing for 674 the year before. Yards per carry goes from 4.1 to 1.8. I don't think he got slower. I think a lot of this has to do with what's around him, especially that pass protection number I gave you. But do you think Lenore Sellers has maybe played his way out of consideration, or you think he's still a guy that
well, to say he's out of consideration, I think it would be a stretch. Now, is he the best fit for what Miami wants to do? That I don't know, D. And that's my thing with him is I love the NFL talent, and I think you can win a lot of games within a certain style of play with him at this level. But as someone who, again, we talk about this with transfer a lot. There's money, that's a factor, but the situation you're stepping into is going to be big. I have to think that whoever's advising Sellers is saying, hey, we need a system that's going to get him ready for the next level. Miami could say, well, look what we've done with our last 2 quarterbacks. But at the same time, does Shannon Dawson think that his skill set will translate the same way into what he wants to do here at Miami? So I think that's the question. I would, if he landed at Miami tomorrow, I'd be happy about it. I think you could win a lot, but I think it'll look very different than what it's looked like, because he can do some things with the arm. The arm talent, I think, is there, but the inconsistent accuracies to me are an issue in what you currently are doing right now offensively.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree with you. There's nothing else to say other than I agree. That's it's a tough sell at this point in his career with what he's done, when you have such a huge need for a quarterback to step in and do the job and play at this level that we've come to expect now 2 years in a row, with Ward as the best player in the country, Carson Beck top 10 in passer rating.
Well, and both of them had a lot of questions, right? And I think this comment here from You Better Love Somebody says, I have confidence in the Miami evaluation within the portal QB. So I think they've earned the trust with what's happened in the last 2 years here.
No doubt. And I think, to me, I still kind of come back to it, the cleanest fit. And I don't know all the details, Pete. I don't know all the money. I don't know all the everything. But I think Bailey, now that the season's done, we're not just talking about him after a Miami blowout or after a good game against Georgia Tech. We're talking, the season's kind of done in terms of regular season, 7-5, basically your average good NC State year. I think that Bailey still makes the most sense based on what I know now. That could change, but based on what I know now, I see a guy who he's a top 5 ACC quarterback now. I think you'd say either, Beck or Mensah at the top. Then you get into your Kevin Jennings of the world, Haynes King. I think right after that, he'd be 5th. You got some young guys with JKS and Heinschel that have the talent to jump up. But right now, just if you look at stats, pretty much across the board, he's a top 5 quarterback in the ACC with those other 4 guys. So I think your floor is a top 5 ACC quarterback as a true sophomore. he'll be here in spring. There's really not a lot of no character concerns I've heard. Everything is great character-wise. He knows the guys locally.
He would slide right into the locker room and I think be a fit. What'd you say? The cleanest move? Is that what you said?
Cleanest, yeah.
I think I agree. I mean, look, I really think if Miami wants him, he's their choice. You pick up the phone today, and you can get that one done. Like, I think, and obviously he's not in the portal, but I'm saying this in a hypothetical sense, right? Like, I think I agree with that. There's less to sift through in terms of, all right, we really, really like this one guy, but is he going to the NFL? Is he going to, as we saw last year with a John Mateer, for example? I think Mateer was a great example of it because you wanted Mateer if you're Miami. You wanted us. There was multiple guys Miami was in the mix for, and there's factors that really take you into January that you've had to do now for 2 years, and they don't want to do that this year. They do not want to do that this year. So you have health, no health concerns with him, right? You have the fact that he's a local guy, like we've talked about. The upside is still there, not a finished product, so probably not as much of a sure thing as some of the other guys out there. But when you go back and look outside of Mendoza, who could you argue that you would rather have taken last year over Beck? And I think, but there was no clear Mateer. It didn't.
By the way, maybe the top 2 quarterbacks picked now that we did the whole rundown. How funny would that be? The 2 guys we were after.
I think in an ideal scenario, JKS from Cal is an absolute stud. I think that to me is both one that, like, if you could make that one happen, that's a no-brainer. Get it done. I have no info on that one. I have no idea where it stands. Maybe Coach Misapeka has some ties there. That would be a lovely thing. But he'd be the one. But there's a lot of hoops to jump through for that one.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and we don't want to. You don't want a recruiting battle. I mean, we've had recruiting battles the last 2 years between Beck. You're fighting the NFL. Ward, you were fighting the NFL, and you had to recruit him. Mateer, you had to recruit him, didn't ultimately get him. So just a simple one would be nice. I think, we talked about the floor and the easiness of it. Again, no injuries. He'll be here right away throwing. Again, this is all speculative, but if you're TJ Bailey, from his perspective, I don't think he needs much convincing. NC State is what they are. They're a 7-5 program when they're good. They're a little worse when they're bad. And he's not going to be able to protect teams against teams like Miami. You saw him get sacked. You could say what you will about him holding the ball. Miami, he was getting sacked the second he took a step. So that's not changing. He saw it firsthand. He knows the difference in offensive line. He's not stupid. So I think that makes sense from his perspective. But then if you look at the upside, and I think the upside part, if we say the floor is top 5 ACC quarterback. The upside, he's only 1 year older than Luke Nickel. He's got 20-plus starts, but he's only 1 year older than Luke Nickel. Like, he's a true sophomore right now. He'll be a true junior next year. So he's still young. He's got the height. You've seen Tyler Shuck, Mendoza, some of these taller guys, they take a while to really get all that they have out of their bodies. I think he's heading in the right direction. He's got a ton of arm strength. He's a 70% passer right now, but I think you could shift him from more of a dink and dunk offense, which NC State runs, to a more downfield offense as his protection gets better. He can run. He ran all over Bill Belichick in North Carolina last game, beating that team. Took Peyton Manning while he beat Belichick, took CJ Bailey one time, and he talked some smack. But I think there's a lot of upside there in our system. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. He's going to get more time. He's the kind of guy, I think, different than Beck, that the more he holds the ball, the more excited you become because he can throw it downfield and he can run. He's kind of like Cam Ward. Not as spectacular, but that style of player. So I think the arrow's up with him, man. You could develop him into a really, really good player on this system. That seems like the cleanest fit to me. Doesn't mean the only one, but now
I think now that the dust settled after the game against Miami, I wasn't giving up on him right after the game as a lot of Canes fans were, but I think as you can see the full picture, and Canes fans are going to have that game in their head, right? If it does happen, and I see it in a lot of the comments, I think the fan base is kind of split 50-50 on that one at this point after that game. I think it was probably more like 75-25, bring him here before that game. But if you take a step back and really look at the last 2 years, right? Because this wasn't a 1 year thing with him, right? He had success last year as well. So, and they did not give him any help this year in terms of the offensive line, at least. He had Hollywood Smothers, but the receivers weren't all that great. Jolie was good at tight end, so
yep.
I'll give that one. But the receivers and the O-line were not great.
Yeah, the O-line in particular here. Haru de Guru says submitting a provisional patent as we speak. Good luck to me. Yeah, man, good luck to you. You're awesome in the comments, and we always appreciate your support. So supporting you, man. Hope it goes well. When that app sells to Google and you're making millions and millions of dollars, don't forget our friends at CanesConnection.com/CIS. Especially, I've been lighter on the Canes Connection. Obviously, I know people were upset, but now that we've seen the vision kind of filter out, let's get back on board. Let's bring it in tight. I know a lot of people canceled their Canes Connection subscriptions after SMU. We need that money. Don't cancel your subscription and tell us we need this portal quarterback or we need this recruit. We need everybody to come together. We've seen now proof of concept. This is going in the right direction. Miami's a real program again, a relevant program again. I said it on CanesInSight.com. We lost the best player in America and got better. That's program health, and you can't do that without CanesConnection.com/CIS. So guys, please support, and let's get it done there with Canes Connection. One last thing on Bailey before we change subjects, because there was one more thing I want to get to, Pete. 2,700 on live, by the way, guys. Like and subscribe. Trey Kendrick says if NC State never beat Georgia Tech, we would never consider Bailey. I mean, I don't know about all that, but I do know that, yeah, he did beat Georgia Tech. And if you look at his stats in that game, I'm going to pull out the game log. Georgia Tech, remember, you saw Georgia Tech's defense against Gunnar Stockton in Georgia, right? We just saw that this past weekend. So those guys can go a little bit. I thought that it was the worst defense I saw all year, but then I see him against the SEC, and maybe it was just ACC competition that got him. But Georgia Tech, CJ Bailey against them, 48 points, 24-32, 75%, 340 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no picks, ran for 34 yards and another touchdown. Only got sacked once in that game, which, of course, that was the big difference between what happened against Miami versus Georgia Tech. It's just under a lot more pressure against Miami. Beat FSU. His line struggled in that game as well, 4 sacks, but he got the game winner. And then UNC against Bill Belichick, 70% passing, 2 touchdowns, and he ran for 65. Another big game I thought for CJ Bailey that was impressive was against UVA, which is now we know is one of the representatives in the championship game. He threw for 70 yards, threw for a touchdown there, ran for 2 touchdowns as well, and a 35-31 win. So I think his floor is super high in this conference, and I think the ceiling with the size, the athleticism, the arm strength, the age, just the fact he's going to get bigger, stronger with his height, he's going to be a stud, I think.
Interesting comment here from Green Shoe All American. I think we should discuss D. He says, does Dawson get the Tulane gig? That affects quarterback targets? No. So I'll say, look, I don't have any info on this specific situation, right? We saw his name already getting linked with it. I do know that he's been a guy that, from what I understand, is going to be very picky about the opportunity that he gets. He's getting paid well at Miami. If he has an opportunity, and there were some opportunities that arose last offseason, but if he has an opportunity, it's got to be a situation that's healthy. I think Tulane's in a good spot, man. They've had a couple really good coaches in a row. There seems to be a nice backing there in terms of facilities and money, and they're in a good recruiting location. If I'm him and they offer him, that's a darn good job, I think, as your first head coaching job. I have no info on it. I don't know if he's their choice or not. But if they approach him, I think it's a good opportunity for him, D. And yeah, I would think it affects your quarterback targets.
Yeah, I think, this one scares me a little bit just because, like you said, it is a good job. So looking at Tulane, Willie Fritz, who kind of built the program, older guy, but built that program up to what it became, which was a team that won the Cotton Bowl against Lincoln Riley and USC, had a 12-win season. He went to Houston, got a raise, handed the program off to John Sumrall, who now is a new head coach of Florida, G5 Johnny. So that's a good platform job. He's from Louisiana. They have that culture of winning, kind of like when Manny took over Duke. You say, oh, Manny's taking over Duke. Duke sucks. But really, Duke had been winning more than Miami had.
I said that in the comments there because people said that Duke got there before Miami. Duke's been gotten there before Miami did 10 years ago.
Yeah, and then so he inherited a better program at Duke than he left Mario at Miami. So I think going to a program that's been winning makes it a little easier. Now, I think there's some good names there with Tulane, because just going, Fletcher Mackel, I think I'm pronouncing that right, but I've seen his name always with these New Orleans kind of Louisiana scoops. He's plugged in there. So he mentioned Dawson. He also mentioned Charles Huff at Southern Miss, who I know we followed when he was going from Marshall to Southern Miss. Willie Simmons, who I think is doing a great job at FIU. He probably, to me, should stay there a little bit longer, keep building up. Sheil Wood at Texas Tech. He's a guy to keep an eye on. They had a great defense. He was a big money coordinator purchase for them. Blake Baker. That, to me, the question with Blake Baker is, does he go to...
Early word is he's staying at LSU.
Right. Does he stay with LSU with Lane Kiffin? Lane Kiffin runs the offense. He runs the defense and kind of builds his stock. But, I mean, he's a Tulane grad. He was a really good player for Tulane. And I think that job for a Blake Baker is a really good one, because for the same reasons it'd be good for Dawson, it'd be good for Baker. To me, with Dawson, what you have to think about is, how much does he want to be a head coach? Because if you're an offensive coordinator only and you just want to call plays and chill and not recruit and do all the other stuff you have to do as a head coach, it's a tough job to be the head coach. You get paid a lot, but it's a tough job. If Miami's paying you a lot,
and he doesn't really have to recruit much now anyways.
He doesn't recruit at all, really.
He doesn't recruit at all, yeah.
And your head coach is going to deliver you all the players in terms of how he recruits and the collective. And then he's going to say, by the way, we're going to give you a veteran quarterback every year. We're going to get the best veteran quarterback. You barely have to teach him. You don't have to develop anybody. And by the way, the quarterback we give you is going to have all day to throw. I mean, what kills an offensive coordinator worse than a bad offensive line that you can't call your plays? Not saying Tulane has that. Tulane's been, again, a good program for a while, but it's not like guaranteed. Like, he's going to have to recruit the players that sustain that. Is he going to recruit? I don't know. So I think the world of Dawson. I think he's a great offensive coordinator. Even with TVD throwing 1 million picks, our offense improved a ton from year to year. That year, number one offense by far last year, and then this year, top 20 in scoring offense when it's all said and done. Carson Beck finishing second at completion percentage. Yards per attempt, we were top 20. Third down conversion, we were top 20. This ended up being a very good offense, particularly with the passing game. And I think Dawson, if he wants to be an offensive coordinator, don't leave Miami. You're not going to get a better offensive coordinator job than that. In terms of players that you have, the ability to recruit. The head coach, maybe he gets involved like every head coach, but he's not like, a Lane Kiffin that's an offensive coordinator himself. So this is a perfect job for Dawson if he wants to be an offensive coordinator. But if he does want to be a head coach, I think Tulane's a pretty good job. I got to be honest, for him.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's a nice look, and we'll see if he's their top choice. We'll see if he gets that opportunity, man. I think he goes, but obviously can't speak for him.
And look, if that's the case, that's part of. I mentioned that we lost the best player in America and got better. That's a sign of program health. Another sign of program health is coordinators leaving.
Ashton Genty played for Miami last year.
Get out of here. So the coordinator that I really worried about staying for that full 3-year term is Heatherman. Because Heatherman just got here. So if we get 3 years out of Heatherman, I'm feeling great. And Heatherman's more involved, I think, in personnel than Dawson.
Heatherman is definitely a recruiter.
And he cares about it. Not saying Dawson doesn't, but Dawson Dawson's certainly involved in the portal and the quarterbacks we get.
The work speaks for itself with Dawson, I think, when it comes to recruiting.
Yeah, and I think the work speaks for him too, and the offensive coordinator. I mean, this guy's a good coach. I want to make sure I'm making that point clear. Miami's offense was under fire a lot this year. And ultimately, when it's all said and done, look at teamrankings.com, FBS versus FBS, 33 points per game, number 20 offense in the country. Actually ranking ahead of Georgia in offense, in scoring offense, and Alabama, just to give you a perspective on Miami, what they're doing. And then, of course, last year, by far the best offense. And I always point to 2023 because even with TVD being the worst decision maker we've seen at quarterback in a long time, throwing the ball to the other team, we still scored 30.1 points per game, 38th in the country, right behind Ohio State that year. And if you look at the year prior to that, which was the Josh Gaddis year, yes, there were a lot of personnel problems, right? We were 114th in the country, 19.4 points per game. So don't take for granted this offense that we've had the past 3 years. They're not, two of them were not like the one where we were number one by far, but the other two are way better than they were before. I think you give Dawson a ton of credit for that.
Facts. Agreed.
All right, man. Well, listen, this has been an awesome show. 2800 on. Remember to like and subscribe. It's still Cyber Monday, so remember to go to the Miami Hurricane team store. You get 30% off everything throughout the site. 30% off everything on the site, MiamiHTS.com, or in store. Just go to the store right across the street from the University of Miami. Get 30% off for the rest of the day, Cyber Monday, and get your Christmas shopping done, your Hanukkah shopping, your Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Miami Hurricane Team Store will hold you down and get you 30% off site-wide. Look at that. We got a future for our guy on the left here. If basketball doesn't work out, Pete, that's your boy.
Dante Allen, man, what a player.
I don't know if we talked about the Georgetown games. I don't know if we had we kind of were.
I did a post game.
Yeah, you did a post game. I watched that, but I don't know if we ourselves talked about it. But statement win. I thought it was very, very impressive to see. Tough loss to Gonzaga where you put a lot of effort in and didn't go your way. You were playing a better team, and then to come back and play like that, I thought was really outstanding. I know Georgetown's not what it used to be, but they were 5-1 or whatever they were going into that game. It's not like they were.
No, they had a bad tournament. They went into the tournament undefeated, and there was a lot of good buzz about them. I know one of their big men was out for the game, so that effect, he had been out for the last couple games before that, so that affected them negatively. But as our boy Kyle pointed out earlier today, the NCAA released their first net rankings, which is it's very analytically driven based on like quad wins, which like you have 4 quads that basically teams are divided into. Miami comes in at number 38, and this is one of the biggest factors. This is now a month plus into the season here, and to me that's a huge start because it shows that you're in that mix, man, and you've played quality opponents. You've played Florida and Gonzaga. You played them close. I don't know why I said Gonzaga.
I said the same thing for BYU. Yeah, I'm used to them being good at basketball.
So you played those guys tough, but really you've beaten the teams that you're supposed to beat by a wide margin. Those games haven't been particularly close. Huge game on Tuesday at Ole Miss, 9 p.m. ACC SEC challenge would be really nice to get a win on the road against an Ole Miss team. I'm not sure how good they are this year. Chris Beard, head coach there, but to get 2 back-to-back out-of-conference wins would be massive.
Yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity. Obviously,
they've lost some games early this year already. So they've lost to Iowa, they've lost to Iowa, and they've lost to Utah. Both close games, and they were undefeated going into the tournament they played in, but they have beaten Memphis this year. So it seems like a pretty even matchup in terms of what both teams have done early this year.
Yeah, that'll be a 9 o'clock start, so pretty late post game that year. It's funny, you look at the Miami basketball. If you use the Notre Dame criteria, I mean, we're the most quality losers in the planet. We should be a 1 seed, losing to 2 top 10 teams. Rock to 5 saying that value-driven education that the BYU website was bragging about paid off watching that game. Yeah, those guys are studs. I really, AJ, man, that guy's good. I'm super impressed. That Paul George comp, I could see it for sure. But yeah, big opportunity against Ole Miss. And then, are any of these out-of-conference games, I'm sure you'll do more research as we get closer. Are any of these the remaining out-of-conference games, the Southern Misses, the University of Louisiana Monroe's, FIU, North Florida, are any of those like sneaky? Like,
I got to look into it more. I really don't know this early in the season. I will get more info on that moving forward here.
If you beat Ole Miss, and then if those
FIU took Miami to the brink a couple years ago, almost beat Miami here.
Yeah, I remember. I think I was there. But yeah, that'd be so. If you win those 5, which again, college basketball, who knows? But let's just say you win the 5 games that you're. I don't know if we're favored against Ole Miss, but if you beat Ole Miss and then you're favored in the remaining 4, I mean, now you're talking about 11-2 heading into ACC play. That's and with the 2 losses coming to 2 of the best teams in the country, again, you got to go and do it. But I'm saying that's pretty.
And then you have your first. Then you have your first ACC game at home against Pittsburgh with, so an opportunity to get off to a good start in ACC play at home. But yeah, man, I'm pumped up. It was a really good showing the other day.
Last thing on basketball before we let you go and we get out of here. Noam DeBrat, the Israeli.
I was going to bring up the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, the question with him, obviously, he's had injuries. The defense, you could tell he kind of moves at a different speed and level of physicality than some of the defenders you have on the team. But 2 of 2 for 3, 5 assists. He looked good handling the ball. He's a veteran, even though he's a young player by like college basketball eligibility standards. We need some of the stuff he brings, man. You think he could be part of this?
Yeah, and this is how I know that they're trying to get him that confidence and work him into it. D is they do this thing after the game. Instead of giving like a game ball, they have like this mask. It's like I don't know if it's from a movie or something. It's like some scary mask that they give like the player of the game. And Jay Lucas gave that player of the game to Noam Dovrad, and they had a video they posted in the locker room, and everyone was excited. And Fran Fraschilla on the call was rewatching the game, and on the second deep one that he hit, he said, "Man, this guy touches the ball twice and he hits 2 threes," and he was all excited because you could tell like he had some good elevation on the jump shot. It's not an easy shot to defend, right? Because he's releasing the ball, at a high point there. He looks like a shooter. If you can get him to shoot it with consistency, stand in the corner, stand way out there on the wing. If he can bring that defense a little bit out to the perimeter, it's going to open up a lot for this offense when he's in the game.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. I was looking at so he played just how old he is. He's 23 years old. He played the U16 European Championship in 2018. Again, 23. So you know who's on the all-tournament team that year? Alperen Sengun. Just to give you an idea of the age of this dude. So he's been around the block, man. He's really a pro in college. He's been,
and I think Salih Altuntaj, by the way, the Turkish delight, the big man. He had a game against Delaware State where he put more on in the box score, but I thought he held his own when he was in there, just throwing his body around, being big, mucking things up in the interior. So I think those guys, Timote, I want to continue to see him get some confidence. We've talked about that before, but yeah, man, really, really some encouraging signs here moving forward. As always, the basketball coverage brought to you guys by Aries Law. Check out AriesLawPA.com. This is estate planning, so wills, trusts. You got to plan your future so others don't. Protect the people and assets you value most. Schedule your free consultation today, AriesLawPA.com.
All right, everybody. Appreciate your support. Fun show. It's going to be a fun set of shows, man. I know we're all fired up about the playoff, and we
got almost 3,000 on here live, D.
It's people always ask, they're like, is it better when you win or when you lose from an engagement standpoint? Obviously, I don't want us to lose, period, just because I'm a fan. But even from just a show standpoint, man, people like winning, man. They like good vibes, and they like the program progressing. Because I think, 10-2, obviously super locked into this playoff hunt and what's happening with all that. And whatever, if there's a postseason game that's not a playoff, that. But the ability to head into the offseason with some juice, with the portal names we're talking about, with the talent that's on the team that needs to be retained, and with some of the guys we're going to be adding on Wednesday and getting a head start on next year's class. A lot to talk about, man, just football-wise, and, of course, basketball, baseball, you name it.
Do you remember what the narrative was going into last season? Oh, Miami couldn't get to the AC championship without Cam. They couldn't get there with Cam Ward. What are they going to do without Cam Ward? The defense was a mess. The receivers, you were losing your all-time leading receiver, Jacoby George, who was a very talented player and productive player at Miami. You were losing a top 50 pick in Elijah Arroyo at tight end. You answered a lot of questions going into this year, the way that they rebounded, the way you won 10 games. I know a lot of fans will still have questions. Hey, I think I have questions. I think you have questions still. How will they take the next step? But I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling great. Mountaintop reached, man. I might have to head over to Tropical Park later today and run that hill.
Let me know. I actually do run. I've been running the hill because my son and both my sons, I took them out there to run with my older son's travel team, man. So I did it myself a couple times. It is really not that
easy.
High. It's not easy
though.
It's not easy.
Especially if you're going up from the side. If you're going up from the middle, the middle's easy. The middle's easy. It kind of elevates slowly there. But try running from the side.
Yeah, and people do drills and stuff like hops and stuff. It's not just running up and down. You got to you can
try it with the weighted vest, my friend.
They're looking like Pete on this mountaintop. Again, appreciate everybody joining us. Like and subscribe to the show. Go Canes.
Go Canes.